In these two ayat, Allah is calling the Muslim community, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu kunu qawamin. Believing community, stand upright. And it doesn't just, qawam doesn't mean to stand upright, it also means to maintain and continue to maintain. Fa'al is something that requires you to come back and come back with new resolve and new resolve and new resolve. In other words, you cannot possibly say, we have justice, we don't have to revisit it. It's something you have to keep revisiting over and over again and do more than due diligence. Go out of your way to go out of your way to ensure that justice is being executed. And in order to understand qama, you have to understand where the preposition ala goes, which is later on in the ayah. So you have qawamina ala anfusikum. That's actually the phrase. But if you read it just in flow, you won't catch that. Now let me tell you why I shared that with you. Allah is saying, be extra vigilant over yourselves. Watch out over yourselves. Be cautious about yourselves. And Allah is not just talking to judges and police officers or people of the law. He's talking to all people. Watch over yourselves. Watch over yourselves carefully and exhaustively over and over again. And then he says, bil qist. That's the next phrase. Qawwamina bil qist. With justice that is open. That is transparent. And actually qist means personally and publicly. Adl is only public. That's a later word in the ayah. Qist actually means justice that is executed in your private affairs and justice that is executed in the public affairs. What does that mean? I have a dispute in my family. Maybe I'm the one being unjust. My anger is it's taken so much control over me that I'm not even being fair in what judgment I'm passing. Maybe I'm ignoring someone or yelling at someone or blaming someone or dismissing someone because I can't let go of my anger. This can happen at the hands of men and it can happen at the hands of women. And we have to watch ourselves. Not only does our family deserve our love, our support, but more than any of those things, one of the root, pillars of our relationships in our families and our friends and our professional lives is justice. Are you even being fair? Are you even being fair? Or is your judgment of fairness dictated by your emotions? This is bil qist. Then he says, shuhada'a lillah. Secondarily, first of all, you should stand upright for justice. Secondarily, the idea is that you should do so being witness before Allah. In other words, whatever decision you make, whatever punishment you decide to give or not give, are you able to stand in front of Allah with full confidence and say, I did the right thing? Ya Allah, I know I said those things. Ya Allah, I know I did those things, but I know I was right. I'm so confident I was right that I can even stand witness in front of you and say, I testify before you that I did the right thing. Do you have that much confidence in your decision making that you can stand in front of Allah without flinching and say, I did the right thing? This is shuhada'a lillah. And Allah says, do this, وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ. Even if it means standing up against yourselves. Maintain yourselves and stand even against yourselves. Stand even against yourselves. And he says, not just against yourselves. Awil walidain. Even if you have to stand up for justice against both your parents. In Islam, we learn so much about the rights of our parents. But when it comes to justice, Allah says, if you're going to stand and your parents are being unjust towards someone, your parents are having a dispute, your father got into a business argument, and he's the one who's wrong, and you know he's the one who's wrong, you're going to stand against your dad. And he cannot say, what happened to you? What kind of Muslim child are you? You're supposed to be respectful to your father. You're supposed to give the rights to you. No, he can't say any of that stuff. And even if he does, it won't matter. Because your loyalty, even though you have to have ihsan to your father, you have to have excellence to your father, your loyalty is to justice because Allah made you witness. You have to stand by justice. There are injustices happening in your family and you say, I'm not going to say anything because family first, bro. No, family is not first. Justice is first. Fairness is first. Even if it's against both parents. Even if they're the ones doing wrong. How many families are ruined because of husbands and wives? Either the wife cares more about her parents, even if they're being unfair, and is willing to forego the rights of her husband. Or the husband cares more about his parents and is willing to do injustice to his wife. And they don't stand up to their parents and say, you're being unfair. This is unjust. This is taking the right of my spouse. Not willing to do it. That's an injustice. You better have to be able to stand in front of Allah and explain. And by the way, that doesn't mean that you don't do injustice against your parents either. But Allah highlights that there's a kind of bond we have that can make us overlook other responsibilities. So, awil walidain, wal aqrabin, and the closest of relatives. Now, all of this, by the way, is what? In summary, what is all of this? It's injustice because you love someone. You love yourself, you love your parents, you love close relatives, and out of your love for them, you're willing to be unfair. And aqrabeen in the Quranic narrative is actually even others than relatives. So close affiliates, people close affiliates. This horrendous murder has taken place of an innocent civilian in public at the hands of certain police officers. That is not to incriminate the entire institution of law enforcement. That is not even to incriminate the entire institution, that department that precinct by itself. There are good people who serve the community, who put their lives on the line to serve the public good. These are good people. There are bad among them, clearly very bad among them. And they should be brought to justice. But this is a time where, you know what happens? Even within that department, even within that group of people, they might say, we need to stick together right now. You know, we're brothers in arms first. We are a brotherhood first. Our precinct is family. Police is family first. No, justice is first. These are the kinds of times where people like to stick together and unite with each other, regardless of what is right and what is wrong. And the same thing can happen on the other side. We're going to unite against the police, no matter what, even if you're being unfair, even if you yourself are breaking the law. Because you go to those who are closest to you and you bond with them in times of conflict, and justice itself goes out the window. A gang mentality is created. A mob mentality is created. You know, an anger is created that overlooks any sense of reason. And so Allah Azza wa Jal says, this is the lack of justice out of love and affinity and closeness to a group of people.